Hey everybody, welcome back to the place where all classic Mercedes things are celebrated and highly anticipated. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. Please like, share, and subscribe this content. There goes another Altima. So that, you know, we can keep our subscriber count up. But anyway, now that I've asked you to subscribe, as you can tell, we're working outside, so we're getting ready to do something really interesting. And as you can tell, I've got all my nerd gear strapped to my head here so that I could show you what exactly happens in great detail when I try to attempt an adjustment that I shouldn't really be doing. So what we have here in the background is a 300 SEL 6.3 with a rebuilt injection pump. I think the pump was in the trunk of the car and said to be rebuilt, so let's hope it is. And actually the car runs really well. In fact, it runs too well because it is so rich, it is so nice and rich that when I get to the upper end of the RPM band, it only gets about 8 miles per gallon, which is not right. A 6.3 is supposed to get much better fuel economy. It's supposed to get like 13. So, you know, maybe 14 or 15 even, if everything is really right. And the thing about the 6.3 is that if you really want to be able to enjoy the car, it's nice not to have to fill up your tank with 22.5 gallons of gas right when you start to touch the reserve every 195 miles. Really, you should be able to get about 300 miles out of one of those very expensive tanks of fuel. So today we're going to look at making this adjustment. And again, this is not something I think any of you should be doing. It takes a lot of testing. I mean, so far I've tested this car extensively. I've replaced every part in the fuel system or checked every part in the fuel system that could be a potential problem, such as the injectors, fuel lines, gas tank, mechanical fuel pump, fuel filters, fuel damper, diaphragms, fuel starting solenoid, idle air valve, all that stuff. And so I want all of you to understand that I'm just showing you this for educational purposes so that you understand where the adjustments are in the 6.3 injection pump. And we're going to be going through this in probably 3 parts. So the first part is the governor adjustment. So on the governor in the center you have the idle mixture adjustment. Then it's flanked by the partial load adjustment and the full range adjustment. And we're going to be adjusting the full range screws today and the rack screw, which adjusts the entire mixture. Down here in what I like to call the abyss, and we have the governor off the back of the 6.3 pump, which goes down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to lean out the partial load mixture. So to do this, we have to go 1 screw at a time. Okay, so you'll see when you have this off that there are two screws. Finding them can be a little tricky. Man, why are they so hard to find? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is 1 full turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was actually the mid-range screw. That's not the screw I want. I think I found the screw I want. Okay, so we're going to go lean on the first one. There are 2 screws. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. now okay, so that completes my adjustment. I went out 10 clicks on each screw so far. So what that's going to do is significantly lean out the engine. We're going to talk about the 6.3 idle adjustment, because this is something you can do. Something I'd like for more people to do, actually. And so what we're going to find is that this idle adjustment is a, well, it's actually pretty easy to do. So the engine has to be off. And this adjuster is at the bottom of the pump. So you're going to have to shove your hand way down in there where I was working, if you could even see what I was doing. So at the engine off, you're going to push this little rod in until it engages the adjuster on the idle mixture screw, which is in the middle of the governor. And this little slotted screw, if you turn it in, is going to enrich in the mixture. And if you back it out, if you push in and back out, turn counterclockwise, it's going to lean out the idle mixture. Again, this should only be done with the engine off, and really it should be done with the engine fully warmed up. And I'm not talking about 30 minutes of driving. On a 6.3, sometimes that means up to 2.5 hours of driving. So, you know, just letting you guys know that it's got to be substantially warmer than an ordinary Mercedes. These engines are big engines. They take a really long time to heat up. So anyway, we're going to reinstall this back in the pump, by the way. If you want to know its size, it's 41 millimeters. We're going to apply some anaerobic sealant to it. If I can find my anaerobic sealant. Where did the anaerobic sealant go? Maybe in here somewhere. There it is. Anaerobic sealant, by the way, is great for items that are sensitive to leaking oil, but may not necessarily be a good candidate for gasket maker. So, you know, we use a lot of anaerobic sealant here because to interfere as much with the oiling or lubrication system of the car. So we're going to screw this thing back in into the lake of oil, because there's a lot of oil down here. It all drained out of the pump. By the way, if you're new to 6.3s, there's a drain hole in the bottom of the block, and you can actually clean that drain hole out while you're working down here. In fact, that's something I should probably do while we're in here. As soon as I found the perfect tool. It's this old speedometer cable, and if you're looking down here, it's behind the fuel damper. By the way, a lot of stuff accumulates here, so all I can say is have fun cleaning it out. That's all. That's all I can say. Sometimes it helps if you're working with this thing just to twist the cable. But anyway, that's important maintenance that should be done if you have a 6.3, so don't forget about it. Okay, so continuing on. Okay, so here's my special wrench, 41 millimeters on this end and 46 on the other. And that nut that you just saw is a massive 41 millimeter monolith. The only problem with this wrench is it's still not quite as small as I would have liked, but whatever, you know. Sometimes LeBron James has to get on the short bus too. Okay, so you get it good and tight because that's really what keeps it from leaking. The anaerobic sealant is just sort of secondary. Now, I'm going to attempt another adjustment here. It's going to be the full load adjustment. And I'm going to go get a special screwdriver for that. And I'm going to show you approximately where it is in the pump when we're done. Okay, so now that we're out of the abyss, and believe me, getting here was difficult. I'm going to show you what I did to get in here. We're going to talk about the two solenoids in 6.3 pumps. So the first one is the fuel cutoff solenoid. Now, not every 6.3 has this solenoid. This is mostly a US cars thing. And this solenoid was designed as both an anti-dieseling solenoid and a solenoid to cut off the fuel on deceleration to reduce exhaust emissions. So it simply sticks out and cuts fuel off. If you don't have this hooked up, the only noticeable side effect you might get is a burble when you're de-throttling, like a which is not bad at all. Sometimes if the speed relays act up, this will kick on and even keep the engine from running, so you don't want that. The next one, and this one's a little tattered, but it works good, is the starting solenoid.
Lower it down. Right.
So this solenoid has one job, and its job is to push the fuel rack in and enrichen the mixture so that the engine can start more easily. And on this particular solenoid, you have to adjust the end of it. You could use this end for adjustment, but really it's preferable to use the end that goes into the engine. This solenoid actually pushes the rack in, so depending on where you set this cap nut, a good quick test is to push on the outer end of the solenoid and feel if it's pushing on the rack and returning just a little bit. So push and return, push and return, push and return. Okay, now another component that I want to talk about is what tool you can use to get to these. So these are, that solenoid is held in with a 4mm Allen screw. It's held in with a 4mm Allen screw. And when you're cranking the engine, that solenoid should push in and then release immediately when you release the key. If it's pushing in but it's not affecting the rack, then you know it needs to be adjusted. And sometimes after the pumps get rebuilt, that's exactly what happens. So now you know sort of what's going on behind a 6.3 injection pump. Again, the governor adjustments are maybe not something that you should do, but the full load adjustment and the main rack, the main rack adjustment, which is the entire range, probably a good idea. So why not try it sometime? Guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below if I've been able to help you and understand some of the injection pump adjustments. There's a really great site called sl113.org that has a lot of this material on it too, so you can always review it in writing. Thank you for watching, and we hope that this video is beneficial to you. Enjoy working on your own mechanical injection system.